If you give too much, stay too long, and accept too little, this isn't generosity. It's a childhood belief that says love must be earned. And until you question it, you'll keep paying for connection with your self-worth. The belief that makes you overgive and undervalue yourself rarely feels like a belief. It feels like kindness. It feels like empathy. It feels like being a good person. But beneath that surface, there is often an inner child belief that quietly shapes your behavior, the belief that your value comes from what you give, not from who you are. This belief does not form because you were selfish. It forms because, at some point in childhood, love felt conditional. Perhaps you learned that you were praised when you were helpful, quiet, mature, or emotionally supportive. Maybe you were the child who didn't cause problems. The one who adapted quickly. The one who sensed what others needed and provided it before being asked. Over time, your nervous system learned a rule: connection is earned through self-sacrifice. From a depth psychological perspective, especially in the work of Carl Jung, early adaptations become unconscious patterns. They are not chosen consciously. They are strategies developed to preserve attachment. As a child, you could not afford to risk disconnection. So you became useful. And usefulness slowly replaced worth. In adulthood, this belief shows up as chronic overgiving. You give more time than you have. You listen longer than you want to. You show up even when you are exhausted. You help even when no one asked. On the outside, you look generous. On the inside, you often feel depleted. You may tell yourself that you enjoy giving. And sometimes, that is true. But there is a difference between giving freely and giving compulsively. Compulsive giving is driven by fear. Fear of being replaced. Fear of being forgotten. Fear of not mattering unless you are needed. In relationships, this belief often turns you into the emotional caretaker. You sense your partner's moods. You anticipate their needs. You adjust yourself to maintain harmony. You may rarely ask for what you want directly. Or when you do, you soften it so much that it barely sounds like a need. If your partner doesn't respond, you tell yourself it's not a big deal. But it is. Over time, resentment builds. Not loud resentment, but quiet disappointment. You feel unseen. Unchosen. Not because your partner is necessarily incapable of care, but because you never learned to claim space. You learn to earn it. Another common scenario is staying in relationships where the exchange is unequal. You give emotional labor, support, understanding, patience. You receive inconsistency, distance, or minimal effort. And instead of leaving, you try harder. This is not because you lack self-respect. It is because part of you believes that leaving would confirm a deeper fear, that without giving, you are not enough. In work environments, this belief often leads to chronic undervaluing. You overdeliver. You say yes to extra tasks. You help colleagues at the expense of your own priorities. You may hesitate to ask for raises, promotions, or recognition. Or you ask indirectly, hoping someone will notice your effort without you having to claim it. When they don't, you feel invisible. This belief can also shape entrepreneurial behavior. You may underprice your services. You add bonuses, discounts, or extra time to justify your value. You fear that charging fairly will make people leave. So you give more instead of charging more. And yet, the more you give, the less valued you often feel. Money becomes complicated because it directly confronts the belief that worth must be earned through sacrifice. Receiving money for your work may trigger guilt. You may feel uncomfortable being paid without overextending yourself. Rest feels undeserved. Even pleasure can feel suspicious. At the core of this pattern is a child who learned that love came with conditions. Perhaps your caregivers were overwhelmed, emotionally unavailable, or inconsistent. Perhaps you received attention when you were helpful, but not when you were needy. So you learned to minimize your needs. You became self-sufficient too early. From the outside, this looks like strength. From the inside, it feels like loneliness. Another subtle manifestation of this belief is difficulty receiving. Compliments make you uncomfortable. Help feels awkward. You may deflect praise or immediately return the favor to rebalance the exchange. Receiving without giving back feels unsafe. Because the inner child learned that receiving creates obligation. In friendships, you may be the one people rely on during crises. You are the listener, the supporter, the steady presence. People trust you with their vulnerability. But when you need support, you hesitate. You may feel guilty asking. Or you ask, then minimize your request. If the response disappoints you, you blame yourself for expecting too much. This reinforces the belief that your role is to give, not to need. Over time, this belief erodes self-worth. Not dramatically, but quietly. You begin to feel that your presence alone is not enough. That you must always contribute something tangible to justify your existence. This is exhausting. And it often leads to burnout, emotional numbness, or sudden withdrawal. You may reach a point where you feel empty, even resentful, without fully understanding why. The inner child belief is still running the system. Healing begins with recognizing that this belief was not chosen. It was learned. And it once served a purpose. At one time, giving protected you. It helped you stay connected. It helped you feel safe. But what protected you then is limiting you now. The shift begins when you start noticing when giving is driven by fear rather than desire. When you pause before saying yes. When you check in with your body instead of your conditioning. It also begins when you tolerate the discomfort of not over-explaining. Of not overgiving. Of allowing someone to respond to your presence without you earning it. This can feel terrifying at first. You may fear rejection. You may fear being seen as selfish. You may fear losing people. But what often happens is something different. The people who only valued you for what you gave may drift away. And the people capable of mutual exchange may come closer. As you begin to value yourself internally, your external standards change. You become less available for one-sided dynamics. You choose relationships where giving flows both ways. In work, you begin to advocate for yourself. You state your rates clearly. You stop compensating for imagined deficiencies. You allow your work to stand on its own. This does not make you less kind. It makes your kindness conscious. True generosity comes from abundance, not fear. The inner child who learned to overgive was not wrong. They were adapting to a world that did not offer unconditional safety. But you are no longer in that world. And as you begin to update that belief, your life reorganizes. Not because you became harder, but because you became truer. You stop disappearing in the act of giving. And that is when your value becomes something you no longer negotiate. One of the most revealing moments where this inner child belief shows itself is when someone asks you for something small and your body immediately says yes, even before your mind has checked in. A colleague asks if you can take over their task. A friend asks for emotional support late at night. A client asks for just one more thing. You agree automatically. Only later do you feel tired, irritated, or quietly resentful. This pattern is not about generosity. It is about fear. Fear that if you say no, something essential will be lost. Approval. Connection. Safety. In romantic relationships, this belief often appears early. You notice discomfort, but you override it. You adjust your schedule. You ignore your intuition. You tell yourself that relationships require compromise. But compromise becomes self-erasure when it only moves in one direction. You may find yourself always available. You respond quickly. You accommodate changes. You excuse behavior that doesn't sit right with you. And when the relationship feels unbalanced, you don't address it directly. Instead, you give more. You try to be more understanding, more patient, more loving. This is the inner child trying to secure love through effort. A very common real-life scenario is staying in a relationship where emotional reciprocity is missing. Your partner may be inconsistent, distracted, or emotionally unavailable. And yet, you remain invested. You hope that if you give enough, they will eventually meet you. What you are really hoping is that this time, giving will finally result in being chosen. In work settings, this belief often turns you into the reliable one. The person who always steps in. The person who holds things together. You become indispensable. But indispensability is a trap when it replaces recognition. You may notice that while you are appreciated, you are not promoted. You are thanked, but not compensated accordingly. You are relied on, but not truly valued. Asking for more feels uncomfortable. You worry it will make you seem ungrateful. So you continue giving, hoping someone will notice. When they don't, you feel invisible. In entrepreneurial work, this belief shows up even more clearly. You may struggle with pricing. You hesitate before stating your rate. You justify your price by listing everything included. You feel the urge to explain why you are worth it. You may attract clients who take advantage of this. They ask for discounts. They push boundaries. They expect constant availability. And part of you believes this is normal. Because somewhere inside, there is a belief that if you don't overdeliver, you will be abandoned. Financially, this belief often creates a pattern of earning just enough, but never quite enough to feel secure. You may avoid raising your income because higher income means greater visibility and greater responsibility. Being seen triggers the old fear that if you fail, you will be rejected. So you stay small. Comfortable, but constrained. In friendships, you may be the emotional anchor. People come to you with their problems. You listen deeply. You offer insight. You hold space. But when you need support, you hesitate. You tell yourself others are busy. You downplay your needs. Or you share, then immediately reassure the other person that it's not a big deal. You are more comfortable giving care than receiving it. Receiving feels dangerous because it removes your leverage. If you are not needed, will you still be wanted? This belief often originates in childhood environments where emotional availability was inconsistent. Perhaps your caregivers were overwhelmed. Perhaps they relied on you emotionally. Perhaps you were praised for being mature, helpful, or understanding. You learned that being easy made things smoother. So you became easy at the cost of being authentic. From a depth psychological perspective, articulated clearly in the work of Carl Jung, these early adaptations become unconscious identities. They operate beneath awareness. They feel like personality traits, but they are survival strategies. The inner child learned that love required contribution. Healing begins when you start questioning that rule. One concrete practice is noticing the moment before you say yes. Even a half-second pause is powerful. Ask yourself whether you genuinely want to give, or whether you are afraid of what will happen if you don't. Another moment of intervention is when you feel the urge to explain yourself. Over-explaining is often a sign of internalized undervaluation. You are trying to convince others of your worth instead of trusting it. In relationships, healing may mean allowing disappointment. Allowing someone to be unhappy with your boundary. Allowing discomfort without rushing to fix it. This can feel unbearable at first. Your system may panic. But over time, you realize something important. You survive it. And something else happens. The people who can only relate to you through your giving begin to fall away. And those capable of mutuality stay. In work, healing may mean stating your expectations clearly. Asking for compensation without apology. Declining tasks that are not yours. This does not make you selfish. It makes you self-respecting. Financial healing may involve allowing yourself to earn without suffering. Allowing money to come in without overextending yourself. Allowing rest without guilt. This is deeply challenging for someone whose worth was built on effort. But slowly, the belief begins to shift. From, I am valuable because I give, to, I give because I am already valuable. That shift changes everything. You stop chasing reciprocity. You start expecting it. You stop negotiating your worth. You start embodying it. The inner child who learned to overgive did not fail. They adapted brilliantly. But you are no longer that child. And you no longer need to disappear to be loved.
If this message resonated with you, take a moment to like this video and subscribe for more gentle reminders of your inner power.